For the last year, the Obama White House has been touting nuclear power as a bridge to the energy future. In fact, it was presidential aide David Axelrod who came up with that line when he was on the payroll of one of the largest nuclear energy companies in the United States, Exelon. For the nuclear industry, everything was coming up roses. Obama was offering huge loan guarantees to build new reactors. The president's Blue Ribbon Commission on America's Energy Future was stacked with pro-industry types. Co-chair Brent Scowcroft admitted that reprocessing spent fuel was on the table, even though it increased the chance of nuclear weapons proliferation. The threat of climate change has caused the major environmental organizations to stop opposing nuclear power. Most remarkable of all, the major peace foundations had put their faith in a little-known organization called the National Nuclear Security Administration to secure old nuclear weapons materials like plutonium pits and bomb-grade uranium. NNSA was founded at the start of the George Bush presidency. NNSA is an independent agency that takes up 85% of the Department of Energy budget to build nuclear weapons. NNSA convinced the big peace groups that it could take old weapons material and turn it into a powerful new version of mixed oxide reactor fuel. The alternative method of getting rid of high-level radioactive materials was to suspend the materials in a glass for later burial in an isolated repository. But that meant abandoning radioisotopes to the junk heap that had cost hundreds of billions of dollars to manufacture. NNSA is a very powerful agency and transcends politics. It was the only government agency the Obama White House did not fill with its own political appointees. Obama left Bush's man in charge and sent in only a single political person as a deputy. NNSA had it both ways. It built the bombs and dismantled them, all in a secret world that few in Congress or the media even understood. NNSA faced little scrutiny and almost no oversight. As the Obama administration and its supporters began to push for new nuclear weapons treaties, NNSA pushed for massive amounts of money to modernize the aging American bomb-building weapons complex. Conservatives in the Senate tied their support for Obama's peace treaties, like START, to a $100 billion modernization program. The big liberal peace groups were willing to see NNSA get the money in order to support their work on dismantling old nuclear weapons. The problem was NNSA's solution for such dangerous substances as plutonium and uranium was to turn it into an unproven reactor fuel at a plant to be located at the Savannah River site that would cost billions. No one at DOE had experience with the process of chemically grinding up plutonium pits into a fine powdered oxide and mixing it with uranium oxide as kind of a super reactor fuel. So the Bush administration hired Areva, the French government-owned company, that sold a far less powerful version of the fuel NSA proposed to utilities around the world. In 2006, ground broke for the $6 billion plant to be constructed near Aiken, South Carolina on the Savannah River site. Though the new fuel was just a theory, NNSA went ahead with plans to bring tons and tons of plutonium pits no longer needed for weapons to SRS to turn into reactor fuel. In 2008, the government's partner in this venture, Duke Power, received a weapons-based fuel array to test in its Catawba reactor. Months into the fuel cycle, the fuel array began to behave strangely. Duke engineers stopped the test, and not long after, Duke Power dropped out of the venture. NNSA was left without any paying customers. As billions more were spent on the plant, NNSA proceeded asking for more new facilities to process plutonium pits being stored at the OK reactor for use in the new MOX plant, even though there were no customers. It became clear what NSA was doing was not just ordering new facilities to produce MOX, but that could be used to build a new generation of nuclear weapons. A plutonium pit disassembly facility could be used to replace this crumbling old separations canyon at SRS. As construction went on at the MOX site, inferior steel and cement, a bad glove box, and racial discrimination suits plagued the project. Areva kept selling its old MOX around the world. In September 2010, it installed the first MOX fuel assemblies in an old reactor in northern Japan called Fukushima Daiichi No. 3. 6 months later, on March 11, 2011, the consequences of a plutonium fuel rod meltdown began in Japan. Areva shares tumbled and Barack Obama's bridge to an energy future was set back by an accident that rivaled Chernobyl.